Joe Biden is, as any school child can tell you, an irrelevant, lame duck president. So, it's the perfect time for the corporate media to recognize what conservatives have been saying out loud for years now, and that is that Hunter Biden used Joe Biden's vice presidency and the Biden last name as leverage all over the world to collect millions of dollars while he sat on the board of a Ukrainian energy company called Burisma. This is such a tangled web, and we know all about it, but the New York Times just found out yesterday, and they put it in the paper today, because the New York Times is now reporting that newly released State Department documents, never could have discovered these things before, no leaks for 3.5 years, show very clearly, in fact, that Hunter sought assistance from the U.S. ambassador in Italy for a lucrative project in 2016, a request that embassy officials appeared to be uneasy with, considering it was the vice president's son and everything. And the vice president had been over there in Ukraine making sure the prosecutor was fired who was looking into corruption at Burisma. But never mind that. It's all in the family. Now, predictably, the White House denied that the elder Biden, the very elder Biden, was aware that Hunter reached out to the U.S. Embassy in Italy on behalf of Burisma, the Ukrainian natural gas company, a business in which Hunter Biden had never worked. Now, the timing of the document's release is also rather suspicious, I think it would be fair to say. The documents were released after Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race. He stepped aside and passed the torch, right? Despite the fact that these documents were part of a New York Times Freedom of Information Act request, a FOIA request, dating back to June of 2021. And now the documents come out. Isn't that curious? Now, the timing that the State Department said was coincidental. It was coincidental. I think that they use the words, but they don't know what they mean. Am I right about that? Now, so it's just coincidence.
Right.
And it turns out that Hunter was going to Joe Biden's appointed, to Hunter, Barack Obama's ambassador to Italy. Great job to have, by the way. And say, hey, a little help with, come on, they're paying me $1 million a year for a no-show job. Maybe throw me a little something for the last name.
And you wonder why Joe Biden is no longer the Democrat presidential nominee. I mean, come on, coincidental? That is, we all know that for a long time, Republicans have been talking about Hunter Biden and talking about his inappropriate contact to many of these foreign agents, foreign countries as well, including China, including Russia, including Ukraine. And yet Democrats denied it. The media wouldn't even cover the story.
Right.
It's how sadly, how our institutions work, which is they will cover up, they will do what they can to protect the man in power, that being Joe Biden and his family. Obviously, I think they knew this was coming out. I think it's why you've seen the changes that we've dramatically seen coming out of the Democrat Party.
Now, Foldi, it's almost like Washington, D.C. is a corrupt city, and, and our government is corrupt, and our media is corrupt. It almost seems that way.
This is what you have to remember. We've talked about this rule my friend John Ashbrook has of the only time a Democrat is ever attacked by these liberal journalists is when it directly benefits another Democrat. And I think it ties into what we were talking about earlier with Harris trying to distance herself from Biden. I think it's an easy way to see how this helps her. But it's much bigger, I think, than this one story. And listen, if you want to get the news 3 years before you read it in the New York Times, watch this TV show, and then you'd actually know what's going on in the world.
Right.
But I was talking about this with one of my friends yesterday of in Israel and Gaza. Israel struck a school that was actually just a terrorist headquarters a couple of days ago, and you had every outlet in the world take Hamas's word for it, saying, oh, 17 million Palestinian children just died here. Every single person hiding in there was a terrorist, which is a war crime to use as a school. And what's crazy to me, and we've talked about the New York Times in particular here, rewriting headlines in real time, 0 people have been fired by any of these outlets, whether it's peddling false information in American politics or covering literally for a terrorist organization. No one has been fired. I don't know how you get accountability.
If I could say, though, almost every major leftist national news outlet has shed tens of thousands of jobs. So the story of how weak the Biden economy is playing out in the headquarters of all these terrorists.
And that's what's so funny is they all get fired and then they still say the Biden economy is great.